pressure is at its highest. And that's right here, right now.
I'll call this a 20-car pileup. I'd be good with that. As long as they put me in a checkered flag and victory lead.
It ain't a game now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
The road to $300,000 returns to the Sunshine State. We're from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. We say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 3 of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We're about to get set to get tonight's race underway, but before we do so, we're so happy to be joined by NASCAR Vice President Racing Development, Ben Kennedy, for a very special announcement. Ben?
Hey guys, first off, thank you all for having me on tonight. Certainly really looking forward to watching some racing tonight in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. You guys mentioned earlier, this is some of the best drivers in all of iRacing. So looking forward to tuning in. A ton of great drivers, a lot of big names from a team perspective too. So really looking forward tonight. Steve Phelps mentioned it earlier today. We're taking a little bit of a break with everything going on. Certainly not only in the world, but the sports world as well. Certainly hoping that everyone is staying safe and healthy at this time. We're going to take a little bit of break. We'll be back racing at May 9th weekend at Martinsville. So with all that said, honored and to be here tonight and make a very special announcement, and glad to announce that we're partnering up again with iRacing, NASCAR and iRacing partnering up to create the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series. It's a sim racing exhibition format series featuring some of the biggest names in our sport. I'll let you guys take your best guess as to who that might be, but certainly a lot of drivers that will be on the entry list in the coming days that we'll post, from Cup drivers to Xfinity drivers to even some Gander RV and Outdoor Truck Series drivers. I think a few ARCA drivers are in there as well, both current and former drivers as well. So really looking forward to that. We'll be kicking off this weekend at 1:30 at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Stay tuned for the tune-in details and everything else. But certainly a neat way for us to continue to engage with our fan base. iRacing has been a fantastic platform for us, and I think William Byron's a great example of coming from iRacing and going up to the ladder system, being in the Cup Series today. I know a lot of fans have reached out to me personally, have become fans of the sport, have become fans of iRacing, and really get a taste of what it's like driving behind the wheels. So looking forward to watching it, not only the race tonight and certainly a big championship on the line, but excited to make the announcement about this weekend as well, and tune into virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Well, thanks, Ben, so much for the time. And guys, tons of sim racing content available to help tie over those race fans. Again, as I mentioned when I was talking with Parker, we welcome all of you who tune in with us all of the time, but maybe some new faces. If this is your first introduction to eNASCAR, happy to have you, but there is going to be more contact throughout the weeks to come, including this Sunday for that Pro Invitational. We're getting set, though, to go down to trackside and get this race underway. Randy, what are we looking at tonight from Homestead?
We'll take a look at the temperature conditions, and it's relatively calm with the ambient temperature, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's 106 right now on the racetrack. And also, look at that wind speed. Southerly wind at 10. I've seen it up to 14, 15 miles an hour in the session. That's going to be a real struggle for these drivers, Evan, as they get racing and deep into these runs.
Let's go trackside and take a look at our Coca-Cola starting grid for round number 3. And from pole position this evening, it will be a familiar pick if you were tuning in about 5-10 minutes ago. Keegan Leahy will bring us to the green flag. His 30.588 going to be the best of them all. He'll be joined on the front row by Reynolds. You got Ryan Loser rolling off at a number 3 position. Ottinger joins him there as well. Logan Clampett, Bobby Zelensky on row 3, Tim. That's a lot of heavy hitters.
You look at the next row, Michael Conti has 3 third-place finishes here. He's never won in Homestead-Miami. This could be the night. Eric J. Smith alongside him. Last week's winner, Ashton Crowder. Santiago Gutierrez, Chris Shearburn, new sponsorship on that Latardi sports car, and Jeremy Allen.
We move back. It's going to be Garrett Lowe with Justin Bolton on row 7. Then you have the likes of Corey Vincent and Zach Novak. Of course, the winner here last season when he took it all home and won the championship. And behind him, Brandon Hayes-Cattell and Bob Bryant.
Continuing on down as the field continues to roll, some more big names, the like of Overland, Busa, you got Guerrilla, Teagan, Challoner, Duvall, all of this through halfway through the field.
Jimmy Mullis, Brian Schoenberg, Jake Nichols, Michael Guest, John Gorlinski, and Kane Cook a part of the field.
As we continue to cycle forward, Davies, Diaz, Reynolds, McCollum, Bolin, and Keister are going to round out nearly your last couple rows, and then Sheehan, Kerwin, Lyon, and Malik Ray. That'll be your 40-car grid for the third round of the series.
All 40 eligible drivers on track competing tonight. It is the first time Homestead has been on the calendar, not in a championship race format. We're happy, though, that you're spending a Tuesday night with us with iRacing on the iRacing Esports Network. Pace car down and in. It is Keegan Leahy's field to control as we say, let's go racing from Homestead. Round 3 of the 2020 Coke Series is green, and we're already blocking to turn 1 as Fowler tries to keep Luza behind him.
Keegan Leahy got a great jump on that start. That battle is for position number 2, though. Ray Alfala holding off Ryan Luza in behind. Logan Clampett begins to move to the inside of the 25 of Nick Ottinger. First side-by-side battle up near the front of the field. Logan Clampett has done well here in previous starts at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. That Burton Kligerman esports driver looking to make it 2 for 2 for the team.
He is, and he's got a good starting place. Again, all of our picks looking pretty good. Started up towards the front. Look at the 3 wide there, a little bit further back. The Bernard of Eric J. Smith. The middle with Michael Conti getting his Junior Motorsports Chevy around on the bottom. Up against down the William Byron Esports entry of the 25 of Nick Ottinger. They'll push each other down the back straightaway. Looks like 2 wide, about 6th placed on the back of the field. As your race leaders have just a little bit of space. These drivers were talking all week long leading up to this, Randy. That track position was going to be very key. Again, that finale here at Homestead last year under the nighttime conditions. Sundown, lights on, cooler track temps, a little bit more grip to work with. Not the case here tonight.
Yeah, definitely the situation. We saw better tire life, though, out of the cars at Auto Club nearly 3 weeks ago, and I think we're going to see that today. Typically, when the tires are fresh, you're going to see the cars doing what they're doing now, get single-filed out and get down to the bottom. But as we start getting, I'd say, 20, 25 laps into the run, Evan, maybe even 30 with what we saw at Auto Club, expect guys to slowly start moving up the racetrack. Variable banking here at Homestead is a little steeper up there to help you out.
It is, and that's why it has been such a great venue for so many years as NASCAR moved its finale to there starting in 2002. And of course, this Coke Series followed it as it was the championship race every season for us from 2011 on to last year. But as they work right now, all 40 cars were able to take to the green flag. A good start thus far. You're looking at the 2 of Ray Fowler right now, the 4-time series champion and the best driver maybe when you look at career stats here at Homestead, running second to Leahy. But the last time by, your race leader put down a 31.230. It was a 3.35 for Ray. So the number 32 car, a 10th better out in front in the clean air.
And I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit here when we talked about this being a championship race the last couple of years, Evan. For Ray Alfala, maybe a guy like Michael Conti, who's driving the number 8 car here tonight, your back's really not against the wall when it comes to trying to perform and getting that championship and getting the victory here at Homestead. Yes, points are on the line, but maybe a little lax feel for some of those guys that came in here last year looking for that big championship. Guys like Zach Novak and Keegan Leahy. Look at this mess in the middle of the pack. There's Jimmy Mullis to the inside in the 46 car trying to pick up one more position. Busa on the outside in the 5. He's been around here a few times. Brian Schoenberg has a few starts here as well. So a couple of the veterans from Homestead right now, middle of the pack, trying to feel out their race cars.
If this race plays out with the strategy, and of course we need some green flag action for that to be the case, like we saw in last year's finale, we could be in store for quite a treat, but you can see the separation happening earlier on. Now you're looking at the race leader. It is Keegan Leahy out in front of the field, continuing to grow his gap atop Fowler. Keegan was the 5th best in the practice session, of course qualified on a pole, the only driver to get down into the 30.5s. Everybody else except one car was then separated by only 0.2 of a second from that point on back.
Yeah, and if I'm one of these, the 39 of these other competitors, I'm really nervous at what I'm seeing right now. Keegan has, over the last year and a half, the trend has been that he's about been the best car on the long run. You see that number 32 Denny Hamlin Racing machine now up ahead of the field and walking away from the deuce of Reynolds. So if I'm everyone in this field, I'm nervous. If Keegan's this good on the short run, if he has the usual pace he has on the long run, I think it's going to be mighty difficult to keep up with that 32 and as he continues to open the gap.
And if it can continue to open up the gap, not only up at the front of the field, but as well throughout, you can see some side-by-side. First car I see making a 2-wide move might be that 33 against, although there's a couple of cars even further up the running order, as now Jimmy Mullis takes his Coke Energy Toyota to the inside of the 37 to Challenger. That's going to be a fight for 22nd spot. So this is kind of the mid-pack. This race will play out, though, Tim, a little bit differently than those races that we've seen in the past. A shorter race this time through, which kind of falls in line with our scheduled distance for all the 1.5-mile racetracks. It had been a little bit longer than tonight's 134-lap scheduled distance in the past when it was the finale, so these drivers have to adjust their strategies accordingly.
Absolutely. 140 last year, 167 the year before, but it equates to 2 to 3 pit stops. We saw it at Fontana a couple of weeks ago where some of those drivers tried to stretch it into 2 stops. A lot of the field went to 3. I think we're going to see that again here tonight with the pit window. As you see Eric Smith on your screen going to the inside of Ottinger as he battles it out for position with Ashton Crowder looking on right in behind him. But drivers right now just taking it easy, trying to pick up a couple of positions as they can. First run of this race, see what you can get. Maybe conserve a little bit. Try to get a little bit further into that first green flag pit stop, because we've seen it here before as well. We mentioned the Tim facts at the start. Average caution count here is 5, so we're going to see a green flag run here, and it looks like we're seeing it now.
Yeah, certainly only 11 laps into the works so far from Homestead, but of course, if the strategy could be a part of it, here's a cool, unique angle. Let's go on board with Phil Diaz, the driver of the number 75 Ford Mustang for Motor Motorsports, and here's the view that he sees. The right-hand side, there's his car, there's the onboard in the sim, but my favorite angle that we go to, the left-hand side of the screen, Randy, that's a look at him at home on his sim rig. These are, if you're new to this series, none of these are AI or simulated cars. All of these cars are driven by real drivers at their home in their sim rigs, and that's a look at Phil Diaz. You can see him even talking on the radio to his team right now.
He looks mighty calm right now. Phil's one of the more experienced drivers that we have in the field, and he knows that this is early goings. He's just sort of sitting there cruising right now, there behind the 17 of Colin Keister by the looks of things, and he's just in cruise control right now, wanting to get laps logged and get deep into this race and probably get some pit stops going. But man, those Motorsport 7, those cars, I love the gold highlights on both of those machines. They look so good.
And that's the Kyle Long-headed team. There are so many different unique teams in this series, ranging from esports organizations to NASCAR Cup Series teams to just NASCAR Cup drivers having their own teams in the series. Quite a wide array of representation. 20 different teams representing 2 drivers each, all 40 drivers in the field with an official team affiliation. I do see a battle right now between the 36 and the 21. Garrett Lowe and Shearburn 11th and 12th position, a little bit further up the road than where you see that number 16 machine, Chris Oberland right now. The 21 just completed that pass, so they're going to be fine there. And you can see as it all single files out down the back straightaway, nobody diving now into turn 3.
Trying to pick your positions and pick up a couple of spots, passing a little bit at a premium right now early in this one. Not a whole lot of drivers really working up or working back, trying to pick out where they started this race. You see Chris Overland on your screen in the 16. There's another look up to the 36 of Shearburn, the 21 of Garrett Lowe. Garrett came so close 3 weeks ago to winning at Fontana, and now has to get back up on the horse and get towards the front of the field. Currently scored in position number 11. Then back to that battle with Overland and Brandon Cattell. Cattell from Florida looking to pick up a home State win, Chris Overland. He started his career back in 2012. He was one of the drivers that ran Homestead back in 2012. So he wants to get back and get up near the front. And look at that mane and tail number 36. Great new colors on Chris Shearburn's car.
Yeah, a lot of different sponsors, as you mentioned, pre-race to the series, but some of the times, we're just getting used to some of the new team number affiliations with these drivers. Is some of the move during our own version of eNASCAR silly season through the off-season. A lot of drivers moving around in new homes, and that is a new-looking car, team representing Letarte Esports. So that's Shearburn working up on the outside. You can see the Renegades Ford on the bottom. That's one of the esport organizations that I had alluded to earlier. Of course, the 27 of Vincent now making a move. Shearburn -4 from the start. But what we're not seeing early in this race at Homestead that we did see early in Fontana, Randy, is that there's not a lot of drivers who have been making big moves. I'm thinking maybe a +9 or so deep in the 20s and 30s might be the biggest action we've seen as far as positions gained now. It would be 17 laps complete this time by.
Yeah, we got a couple drivers up 5 or 6. One driver that's up a good amount is actually that 17 of Colin Keister. We saw him from behind when we were on Phil Diaz's camera a handful of laps ago. He's up from 36 up to 27. So Colin's doing quite well here to start working his way forward. I will say, just monitoring lap times here in the gap out front, your leader's somewhat starting to equalize here on Keegan Leahy. There were a couple laps as well where the likes of Logan Clampett, Bobby Zelensky, Michael Connie, even Ryan Luza at sometimes were quicker than your leaders of Keegan Leahy and Ray Alfala. So the gap to those guys up front may be starting to come down a little bit, if not at least equalize.
And we'll see how this shakes out. Now, you mentioned that the tires were able to stick along a little bit longer that 3 weeks ago in Fontana. Also, because we had an extra off week, it was a new build to the iRacing service. iRacing has updated 3 times over the course of the year, splitted it into quarters to keep things as up-to-date with real life as possible. That included some very minor tweaks to these cars to get them up to speed with what they are in the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series package. A little bit more drag and all that. But as you can see right now, Luza and Alfala, this is the closest battle on track inside of the top 5. Some passing going on a little bit further back. Ashton Crowder on Eric J. Smith for 8th. There they are, side by side.
And in behind them, Garrett Logan to pick up a position on the number 4 of Santiago Tires as Crowder tries to complete that pass off of corner number 2. Won't be able to do so. Eric Smith hanging on the right rear quarter, but Crowder takes the spot down into corner number 3, and they'll get back to single file racing. But that 21 of Garrett Lowe is on the move. Just made that move on Tires and now pokes the nose to the inside of the big green egg, number 9 of Eric Smith. Down the front straightaway into corner number 1. So we'll see what happens there. But Ashton Crowder trying to get himself a little bit closer towards the front of the field and pick up where he left off at Fontana. Great onboard shot from Ray Alfala. What a run into 2 to the inside of Luza as they battle for second.
He'll get on the bottom, but the 53 car is not going to give him a ton of space. You can see the Chill Blast Ford cycle right back on through. Ray had the opportunity to look to the inside, not able to make it stick, and Luza, therefore, in the 53 car, is able to get it done up on the outside. Went to the bottom, crossover wasn't good enough, and that worked out very well for Luza. He now takes over second position, but you can see the on-board shot from Ray Alfala there. I mean, Keegan Leahy has had an opportunity as they fought to check out. I mean, he has been the best car on track. Your race leader, you can barely see him way out there. He is a second and a half in front. So now that Luce is clear of that traffic and on his own, we'll see if he's got speed that could challenge for the race lead. Don't look now. Logan to clamp it into 99. Maybe the next driver up on the back of 4-time.
Yeah, that's the way it might be looking. Logan 2/10 quicker than Ray Alfala at the moment. And I do promise there was a period where it seemed like Keegan maybe was dropping off in terms of the lap times, but as we've seen late in the run, he is just so good. The 99, though, of Logan Clampett gets a run on Ray Alfala down the back straightaway, closes. Of course, not going to make it move, but Ray is struggling really loose at the moment. He was loose when he was up behind Ryan Luza, trying to hold on and stay right underneath the rear spoiler, and he's loose through 3 and 4 as well. Look for the 99 to have a peek.
He will look to the inside again. Can he complete the pass like Luza did? Bottom side at 1 and 2. Ray's going to stick it up at a very outside line. There is no challenge. Clamp it clear at a 2. He takes third place away, and this time there is no counterpunch. Fowler unable to cross him over. He'll have to settle for position 4. Taking a look at the split screen, right-hand side, you're watching the 42 of Bob Bryant fight with the 37 of Christian Challenger. Challenger on the inside, representing JTG Doherty, and on the outside it is the Kyle Larson Racing Esports car of Bryant. That battle is back for 20th.
And it's getting intense as the 24 of Nichols tried to take a look there and try to go to the inside, but can't find a run there. And Matt Busa, also a part of this battle, as they duke it out mid-pack. As you mentioned, Evan, it's around the 20th place position. Bob Bryant holding that outside line, and the inside Christian Challenger goes, and here goes that 24. Jake Nichols trying to make that run to the inside. Almost made it 3 wide, but Nichols going to have that run.
Back into the Motorsports car. We talked about his teammate a little bit earlier on, but it is Nichols now at the bottom. He's got the 5 car of Busa in line behind. 2 sets of 2x2 down the front straightaway. Outside, though, able to carry the momentum off of that progressive banking. 18 degrees on the bottom, but it is 20 up at the outside, so it allows them to carry a little bit more speed. You're on board with Nichols, the monster car on the right. There he goes. Bryant just carries so much more speed, about 3 miles an hour faster off of the corner.
Yeah, you see Nichols immediately getting up in the line when he had the opportunity through 3 and 4, trying to reel Bob Bryant back in. And actually, Bob, a little bit of a wiggle off of turn 4. We're starting to see these tires maybe go away, and Nichols has a run. Not going to take a peek, but they're side by side. That's Challenger and Busa duking it out.
They are side by side. You can see Challenger up on the outside, and it looks like that 5 car of Busa is going to get clear. He does. Tucks in line in front. It is his for the moment. Just goes to show you the back of the pack. We race leaders are able to separate. You just really can't do that here in traffic. Nichols now on the bottom of Bryant, continuing to try to make some moves. There's Leahy right up against the outside wall. Just inches, if that, off of it to get every little bit of arc he can down into turn 1. As he goes down the back straightaway, Tim, we're working through now. Almost closed it in on what we would be talking about, pit stops. What is tonight's race analysis?
And we're just past halfway through that pit run. Should be 2 to 3 pit stops, depending on where you feel comfortable, how you have your car set up. 59 to 64 laps. Pit road speed is 50 miles an hour. The distance, as we mentioned, 134 laps. And this race has been the championship race the last few years. Last year, won by Zach Novak, holding off Keegan Leahy in a thrilling finish. There's the 83 on your screen of Zielinski, another driver that was involved in a championship battle the last couple of years here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. But there is another, we mentioned it earlier, Evan. When you come in as a championship race, you have your back up against the wall. You have to perform. Michael Conti, same way back there in the 8 car. He's been involved in a couple of championship races here before. Pressure's off a little bit, but now you can go out and try to focus on winning a race, and maybe try to learn a little bit as you ride on board with the number 2 car of Ray Alfala. Loses 1 more position, now back outside the top 5, currently sitting in position number 6.
iRacing is the leading simulation racing game for your PC. Developed as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced space of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing. All of the drivers that are competing in this series for $300,000 had to start somewhere. You can get your journey on sim racing kicked off by visiting iRacing.com today to get started. Still watching a handful of these fights taking place. Again, Fowler started second, dropped back to P6. He does have a bit of a buffer, but at X, I guess the replacement, if you will, the car behind Ray is the car he drove last season. Garrett Lowe, big mover, started 13th. He's up to P7, so he's been on a decent climb, and he's closing in on the back of the 2. That may be the next move, or it could be this duo, seeing Conti close it in on Bobby Zielinski.
Yeah, there definitely are some drivers starting to slowly move their way forward on lurking on the drivers in front of them. Michael going to be an interesting one to watch. We've not seen him have sort of the good long run speed in quite a while. So we're going to go on board with the driver of that number 8 Chevy Camaro of Michael Conti, currently lurking behind the 83 of Bobby Zielinski down the back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4. He won't close in too much, but Michael Conti looking mighty focused at the moment.
He is locked in the number 8 to Chevrolet for Jeter Motorsports, the WR1 Sim Chassis sponsored Camaro ZL1 as he chases down Zelensky. That difference between the two, about a car length apart. Both those cars looking real nice with a bit of red, black, and some chrome mixed in there as well. And, we could see when we went on board with somebody a little bit earlier on, too, we saw some drivers maybe a bit more chatty on the radio. I didn't see Conti talking that much. I mean, he really looked zoned in as he's trying to make this pass for P4 happen.
Conti is focused. I know he works with Brandon Hastings. Those guys have been together for a few years in this series. That rapport that they have, that comfort that they have, it shows on the racetrack every time that they flip the switch and get on the virtual racetrack here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. There's that 21 of Garrett Lowe pulling away from Ray Alfala. Comers and goers, we're really starting to see it now, Evan, in this stage of the run. Garrett Lowe continues to work his way up towards the front. Ray Alfala falling a little bit here in the middle run to the second half of it, what would be a green flag run to a green flag pit stop. So keep an eye on the 21 of Garrett Lowe. He's coming to the front. Ray Alfala fading a little bit here in this run. And we'll see that throughout, but the first couple laps, it's kind of hard to pass. Got to pick your positions, and we're seeing one more. There's that 25 of Nick Ottinger to the inside of the 2 of Ray Alfala.
He's been able to go on through. Ottinger going to make the move, so he completes that pass. The driver, as I mentioned a bit earlier on for William Byron at eSports, he and John Gorlinski driving for the driver of the 24 in the NASCAR Cup Series in William Byron, a noted iRacer as well. Saw him competing in some community events as well earlier on in the week here, and he completes that pass, gets the job done. Again, Garrett Lowe has also been able to get on through, so the next driver up on deck would be Justin Bolton. And, some of the drivers, some of the teams, it is helpful for us to note, what their team affiliation is with, because, Randy, a lot of these cars have sim-specific sponsors on them, but the next car in the back bumper of Ray Alfala is going to be one that's very easy for everybody to identify what team that's with. It is a move to the inside by Justin Bolton, the Smithfield Ford that is, of course, Stuart Haas Esports. He looks to clear it at turn 4, and it looks like not quite yet. Ray's going to stick it in there and try to make him work at least another half lap for it.
Yeah, it shouldn't take people too much to put that puzzle together, should it? But you're right. Justin looking very good on the inside. Ray tried his best off of 4 to keep up the momentum, but look at that. Just through 1 and 2. Not able to keep up the speed. Is that 2 of Ray Alfala? Looks like he has a really, really good short run car underneath him, Evan. But, man, once we get late in this run, Ray is really struggling right now. Second all the way back to now that's going to be 9th. And Ashton Crowder is closing to potentially put him on the bubble of the top 10.
Real unique trio of cars. If we look even further back down the running order, Ashton Crowder is in 10th position. He is your race winner, as we've mentioned a few times from last time out at Fontana. He's racing against Zach Novak, Corey Vincent, and Chris Shearbird. All those cars kind of stacked up back to back. Of course, if you're wondering where your favorite driver is, you can see that running order going across at the top of the screen at all times. There is that group of 4 that I had just mentioned there. Crowder looking again to maybe get a second win on the year against Zach Novak, who was one of the big off-season stories, made the switch to Richmond Raceway Sports, the defending champ in his Sunoco-powered Toyota Camry, trying to put a move on the 77.
And Novak's name, we haven't mentioned a whole lot here this evening. Evan, we mentioned him obviously winning the championship last year at this racetrack, but haven't mentioned a whole lot about him. Got swept up in a incident at Fontana and kind of put him behind the 8 ball when it comes to the championship standings, albeit it is race 2. It's very early to talk about points, but the 90 of Zach Novak has picked up 5 positions already, from 16th place up to position number 11 as he chases down Ashton Crowder as they battle for a top 10 spot.
Long way from home still in Homestead-Miami, but we are inside of 100 laps to go. Pit stop's going to be up next. So far, though, it has been all Keegan Leahy. He's out in front by 1.5 seconds. You're watching round 3 of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Could you just run me through that again?
Well, it's cherry vanilla Coke. 2 things in one.
I did not know you could do that.
So good together. Try new cherry vanilla Coke.
We got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're going to lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage.
Your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane, press and hold your reset button, and we'll come and get you.
You could see pit stops began. Keegan Leahy now down to the pit lane from the race lead. He was not the first car in. You could see those two cars there, the duo of the 77 machine and the 2 were able to kind of undercut it by just that single lap. They went in, got their service, and one of the unique things about Homestead is they're racing each other on that access road on the inside of 1 and 2 as they blend back up and into traffic. Keegan now just exiting his pit box back off into turn number 1. As we talk strategy, Tim Terry, this makes it look like that most of these drivers obviously going to go for the 2-stopper.
Yeah, they're going to go for a 2 or potentially 3-stop strategy when you look at it going through. And they pitted a little bit earlier than I thought. I figured we'd start seeing them around 45 at the very earliest, but now we're seeing them come in at 43, 44, and now lap 45. Logan Clampett was your leader, came down into pit road to get service on his number 99 car. Zach Novak last time by was the leader, and he's going to get woed down to come down onto pit road this lap by. So you see the 32 on your screen. He will be the net leader when everybody cycles on through. But I'm interested to see, because typically, Evan, we usually have
we got a car on the wall. We got a car on the wall trying to get to pit road off of turn 4. I'm not sure who it was. They missed the access road, and they hit the pit attenuator.
No caution, so this race is going to stay green for now. While we were away, we saw another driver struggle onto pit road as Eric Smith got clipped in the 9 machine. He did not, though, get into an incident. We stayed green. I believe, Randy, it might have been Steve Sheehan.
Yeah, it was the number 1 is Steve Sheehan just coming off of pit road. I was going to mention this, Evan. It's a completely new way that these drivers are getting on pit road. Casey Kerwin caught up in this as well. You're not running the entry access road anymore. You mentioned the exit one. Now this year, these drivers able to drop in off of turn 4. We saw a couple drivers miss it. The 9 of Eric Smith. Replay coming up of the incident with Sheehan. But Eric Smith missed the pit entry as well. We've seen a couple people almost speed. But look at this big incident from that McDonald's number 1.
We'll see it right here as he tries to get in. He's turning left, can't make it right into the barrels. And as that car swings around, there was nowhere for Casey Kerwin to go, and his car gets involved. So the Denny Hamlin race hit entry of Kerwin picks up some damage, Tim. For lack of a better term, it is a super sketchy pit road entry that way, even for the drivers that have been successfully able to get down to pit road speed here of 50 miles an hour, because all of that braking is taking place on the actual racing surface. I mean, they're starting to slow down well above that white line before they turn in. And unfortunately for Sheehan, he wasn't able to make it. Both he and Kerwin in the boxes for some extensive repairs.
Tough break for 2 of those drivers. And you look up front, there's that mane and tail number 36 of Chris Shearburn. I was about to say that a lot of these drivers are, right now, it looks like 8 of these drivers going to try to stretch it a little bit beyond that different strategy. We've seen these green flag races play out before where we see a 2 and a 3-stop strategy. I don't think you're going to get one here this evening. I don't think you're going to stretch it to the end of one pit stop. But guys like Chris Shearburn, Bob Bryant, Blake Reynolds, John Gorlinski, Nathan Lyon, Brian Schoenberg, and Kane Cook among those that are staying out. By the looks of it, Evan, going to go with a 2-stop strategy. Your net leader, I believe, may be Ryan Luza. He's out ahead of Keegan Leahy.
You know, we'll see, as Luza right now is 8th on the racetrack. Ryan Luza opted to come down to the pit lane and to get his service at lap number 43. The service happened for Keegan Leahy at lap 44, so I think that 1 lap difference in pit stops has allowed that number 53 to kind of leapfrog ahead of him. As you take a split screen look, Luz on the left-hand side is your net race leader. It is position 8 at the moment, but I mean, it's not like he just squeaked him out. He's got a pretty healthy margin of about a second and 3/4 or so atop Leahy for 8th and 9th.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about that with Luza. I mean, it's a pretty sizable gap as we're going to take a peek here. Looking, I believe this is the entry from Eric Smith getting down on towards pit road. You can see how difficult it is, Evan, having to drop off that apron. You know, it's a lot easier just having to come off the back straightaway because it's flat, but the banking dropping down to the pit road is mighty difficult, and everyone getting caught out by the newer rules package this year allowing that. But man, we've seen the pace difference between the cars on new tires and the cars on old tires, Evan. Still a handful of drivers still trying the one-stop here. It's Cheerburn through Cook, 1st through 7th, yet to come down pit road.
One of the difficult things as well in the sim is, Tim, you can't just stick your hand out the window net to let the guy behind you know that you're pitting. Eric Smith actually got hit by Santiago Tires. That's why the 9 car broke sideways. So there is as well some damage on the right rear of Eric Smith. You can see him right there, but also a bit of left front damage on Tires' number 4 entry as they had gotten together. That is the contact that led to Smith missing the pit lane entry, and because of that, he is right now the last car on the lead lap in 31st position. Only waiting on 5 cars still to come down to the pit lane. Running over to the left-hand side of your screen, Shearbird, Bryant, Reynolds, and Gorlinski. Those are the cars who still need to come down to the pit lane. We take a side-by-side look now at what's going on at the literal front of the field and what's going on with Lusa, who's hoping to defend and become the race leader once this all cycles through. You can see the 25 car passing him on the inside. That's Nick Ottinger. That is not for position.
And that would be eventually to get a lap back, but the 36 up on the top of your screen, that is Chris Shearburn. Still your leader, Bob Bryant, in position number 2, about 7 seconds or so behind. And then Blake Reynolds right in the tire tracks of Bob Bryant, sitting in positions 2 and 3 respectively. And then you get to Ryan Luza, who has now scored in position number 4, so working his way up through the field and getting back up there. But we've seen these pit stop strategies play out before in these races. Always brings us to a differing strategy. And some of those drivers, Chris Shearburn started in position number 11, trying to pick up some time on the racetrack and pick up some track position. And of course, if a caution flag does fly throughout this, it's going to jumble everything up. But Shearburn doing a great job out in front of the 36 car.
Blake Reynolds right now is riding in 3rd position on the racetrack. He is the last of those cars that is yet to come down to the pit lane. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Coca-Cola Cherry Vanilla, introducing a new combination of your favorite flavors all in one Coke. You can try it today at your local stores. And speaking of Coca-Cola Cherry Vanilla, that is on board with Blake Reynolds. They're running in the number 3 spot. You can check out that number 3 Cherry Vanilla Coke car now. That paint scheme was actually designed by Gott Brothers Racing, Randy, for Daniel Suarez. That was to have been ran in Atlanta this past weekend, but here it is on the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. Cherry and Vanilla, so good together. I tell you what, it looks sharp too.
Yeah, it definitely does, and we're definitely going to have to try that flavor, Evan, when that comes out. Huge fan of that combination. But you can see that 3 car all over the back of the 42 of Bob Bryant. That is the fight for 3rd on the racetrack as these drivers continue to cycle.
Right now, he's tucked up in the back of Bob Bryant. That is for position, but Lusa, just based on speed alone, has been able to drive past these cars. So Ryan Lusa has pitted, but he has passed them anyways. That goes to show maybe the benefit and the importance of tires. It is now just Shearburn preventing Lusa from cycling himself to the back to the lead. And on the left, you can see when all these pit stops happen. So Shearburn, Reynolds, Bryant, Gorlinski, looks like Lyon, Schoenberg, and Cook. Those are the drivers, top 16, who have yet to come down to the pit lane. But Tim, I do not think that it is any sort of odd coincidence that Lusa, Leahy, Clampett run in the order in which they pitted. Lusa on 43, Leahy on 44, Clampett on 45. That a little bit of an earlier pit stop for each of those drivers seems to have dictated their running order after the cycle.
That 1 lap definitely makes a difference, as you can see it on the running order. And you see a couple of those drivers trying to change that pit strategy and trying to pick up a decent running position. John Gorlinski stands out at me. He was the inaugural winner here back in 2011 at Homestead. Back in this series, driving for William Byron Esports, running in position number 9, now back to 10th as the strategy comes through. Trying to make something work here for that number 97 car. There's Bob Bryant on your screen, also making a entrance into this series. Bob Bryant's a name that you see on iRacing, but great to see him in this series and having a great run right now. In the top 10, albeit with a little bit of pit strategy, is Chris Shearburn. Will drive by the start-finish line one more time to complete lap number 59 on the racetrack.
Yeah, Bob Bryant, one of our 5 true rookies to the series this year, along with Alex McCollum, Graham Boland, Colin Keister, and Santiago Tires. We've talked about some of those names earlier on this evening, but some have been a little bit quieter. And again, it is kind of difficult to kind of pinpoint who's been making moves and who has not, with all of the drivers, again, who have still yet to come down to the pit lane. We were talking about maybe the difference in deciding to go for a 2-stop strategy, Randy, or a 3-stopper. Again, 45, I think me and Tim would agree that that's about the range that you would go in. If you were to go for a 2-stopper, you go 45, you do that same distance, you get to 90. That pretty much splits it up nice and even. But at this point, these drivers who are staying out, Shearburn trying to get to the halfway point. He needs about 7 more laps to do so as we work lap number 61 of 134.
Yeah, I mean, this is now, you talk about drivers making moves, and this is going to be potentially the biggest move, potentially of the race. We saw a handful of drivers really try this last week. I'm going to say Shearburn's about the only one in the mix right now that I think is in position to potentially make this work. He's only about 5 laps out from when he would need to come down pit road if he can push it that far, and he's still out in front of the likes of Luza and Leahy. So you figure if he can make it to 67, Evan, he's essentially going to have the overcut. He's going to come out on old tires when these guys' tires are somewhat weathered down. They'll be coming down pit road at some point. This is going to be a very interesting race to see if Shearburn can not only make it down towards pit road, but if we go green, if this one stop ends up working out for him, and hey, we may not even need to go green. He may only need to last to about the next round of pit stops at lap 90, as here comes second place right now, Ryan Luza. He wants to lead.
Luza's going to go on through, and I would think that, Tim, if the 36 is yet to pit, even if it is possible to just go the distance on fuel to make this a one-stop race, I'm guessing the fact that the guy who's already pitted has just passed you before your pit stop wouldn't bode too well for not only the ability just to get to the end, but I think the competitiveness of that call maybe.
And it might very well be Ryan Luza out in front now, and you can see the next pass being made here as Chris Shearburn going to lose one more spot to Keegan Leahy. Leahy motors on the outside, but differing strategies. We've seen it play out before, and we've mentioned it before, is we got one in the middle of the racetrack. That's a caution. That's the 6.
That was rated 1 and 2 when we picked it up. Nathan Lyon with damage on the Oscar Mayer Ford. I think he may have gotten a flat in that number 6. It was a botched attempt to get down to the pit lane. It was a flat tire. He got a flat down in turn number 4. I think it was as he was coming to the pit lane regardless, and the flat tire meant that he could not get to the pit lane. He missed the entry, and he struggled with that 6 car all the way down and eventually split it out in the grass. We'll take a second look at a replay, Randy.
Yeah, it's great to have this in the update, Evan. Not only do you have to stretch the fuel, but you have to be careful with your equipment. As see that number 6 Oscar Mayer Ford, it's already slow down there on the racetrack. The tire let go in turn 4. That was in turn 1 where it ended up spinning around, but he 100% lost that tire coming off of turn 4. And I love this. It's the first time I can think of in a long time that having a tire let go has affected one of these races, and it definitely adds to the strategy element, Evan. You have to be perfect if you want to go on the long run with the strategy, as we might have some split strategy here. Some drivers on the access road on the entry side of the track, and a couple interesting names poking their nose up top, maybe thinking of staying out.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and now they are going to dive back down, Tim, because we were questioning the effectiveness of trying to go for that one-stop strategy. It worked out real good for Chris Shearburn because he'll pit 3rd, but I mean, this is a big stretch to try to go from this pit stop here to the end if it should go green once we get back away. Nonetheless, Luza leads it in. I guess that everybody's going to be going for 4 and a full tank.
And Blake Reynolds went from 33rd to 9th coming down onto pit road. So the strategy, I think, worked out for him as well. He picked up a lot of track position through that. But now we see if anybody stretches it. If this race does go green to the end, and that's a big if, as these drivers are now on pit road getting the work done to their race cars. There's Keegan Leahy trying to get 4 tires. And look at that. It looks like he may lose a spot on pit road. Ryan Luza was quick.
That was awfully close to that line. I believe Leahy may have stayed in front of Clampett, and we'll have to find out. That may be the biggest benefit of having the #1 pit stall, because certainly Logan Clampett was faster than him on the exit, but this time at a turn 2, you're going to see that Leahy does indeed drive by him. So the benefit of the #1 pit stall means that he did technically beat him off of the pit lane. So Leahy maintains second. There's no loss there. It's still going to be Loser 1, Leahy 2, Clampett though 3 now, with Zelensky and Shearburn trickling down the running order to P5. But back to that point where the yellow flag came out again, that is, I mentioned some of the changes that came to the iRacing service. We've always said on iRacing that our version of an equipment failure is something like a technical glitch or something wrong with your equipment on your end in your sim rig. Well, there you go. First flat tire maybe in a Coca-Cola Series history. We're going to get set to go back and away in just a moment. Close it in on halfway home from Homestead. Ryan Luza, your race leader.
Could you just run me through that again?
It was cherry vanilla Coke. 2 things in one.
I did not know you could do that.
So good together. Try new cherry vanilla Coke.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Brayden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side by side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead.
Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loba is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett low. 4 wide at the stripe. For all his work here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
And back at it from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. Lights out on top of the pace car. We're going to get set for our first race start of the afternoon. A blown tire for the 6th and 8th line has put us under the yellow flag. It has kind of really shuffled up the running order and the strategy as we get set to put 68 laps behind us inside now of the second half. And we'll see if these drivers going to make a run to the end. Ryan Luza on the green flag cycle to pit stops earlier on. Took over the race lead from Leahy. He'll lead us at a turn number 4. Green flag back in the air past halfway at Homestead.
Logan Clampett quickly to the inside, trying to take position number 2 away from Keegan Leahy on that upside. And we saw Keegan Leahy on the first run get out in front and kind of walk the dog prior to that green flag pit stop. But now he's mired in traffic, mired in a little bit of that dirty air as he tries to roll the top on the outside, going down into corner number 3. Bobby Zelensky, a part of this battle as well, as he tries to get to the inside of the 32.
Clampett gonna slide high to turn 4. He wins the fight for second to move the Valvoline Toyota into P2, but Keegan's not done. High, low, once more to the inside. He'll challenge for second position, but a very late arc's gonna make that car a bit of a handful in the center. He'll keep it even with him. Nose to nose for P2 with Zelensky watching on. Does he try to make it 3 wide? He'll stay put P4 for the moment.
Clampett gives the wall a little bit of a scrape entering turn 3 as Zelensky lurks behind the 99 and the 32, wanting to pick up any of the scraps they potentially leave behind. They come off turn 4 in a dead heat. Zelensky still trying to work the draft and get any sort of run he can, but can't do it. The 32 was good at the start of the run, at the start of the race, but he had a clean air, and the way he's not driving around by the around the 99, I think the clean air was the big factor. They're still door-to-door off of turn 2. This is nearly 3 laps they're pushing. We're yellow again.
Caution behind. There's a spinner at a turn number 2. It is the 55 of Kane Cook, his Ford Mustang. Wrong way around at a turn 2. And it looks like that this may have been a bit of calamity. It looks like at least 3 or 4 cars got a piece of the contact. It was just the 55 who went around, as we'll get set to take a look at that in just a moment.
It got a little bit of damage as we'll look at the replay to see what brought out our second caution flag of the evening. The 55, Kane Cook, the 9 right behind him. And just in front, Colin Keister goes a little sideways. The 55 gets around, and there's the 75 of Phil Diaz barely getting through that as well. But we talked about Colin Keister earlier in this race, Evan, being one of the big movers coming up through the field. And we saw him there, but doesn't look like a whole lot of worse for wear. The little bit of damage to the back end of Kane Cook's car, though. He's going to have to come down pit road and get that massaged.
Yeah, loose conditions, really not something that we've been talking about much tonight, but you saw the 17 break loose while Keister was fighting with the 47 machine for position of Jeremy Allen, and then when he had to check it up, he did a good job of hanging on to it. It was just bad timing for the champion entry of Kane Cook, who kind of ended up sandwiched between he and Eric Smith. The 9 got a bit of damage. I think also maybe the 75 of Phil Diaz might got a little bit of that on his Mode Motorsports Ford, but there is a whole host of cars coming down to the pit lane. Your race leaders opting to go for the track position, but when I say the race leaders, I mean 1, 2, and 3, because everybody else basically down to the pit lane. This will make things a lot easier if they're looking to try to stretch on fuel.
Yeah, Virtual Racing School Camaro of Bobby Zielinski, he decides not to come down pit road. Chris Shearburn as well. I like this call. He's valuing the track position, but huge split strategy is, look at the race off pit road. They're 3 wide, and everyone not trying to get narrowed up for the exit access road.
Total number of cars that stay out in that cycle is going to be 9. And again, you are going to get a little bit of an advantage on the tires. Of course, anytime you come down and get 4 fresh ones, it's going to help you out in a very short run. Tim, was that a call for tires, or was that a call centered around fuel?
I don't think it was a call centered around fuel, because we've seen some of these drivers, i.e. Chris Shearburn, go half the distance in this race and then be able to come down. So I don't think it's a fuel call as much as it is a tire call, but if you're unsure, if you're unsteady on your fuel call, come on down, get it topped up, and get down to the end. But we only ran, a lap or so here.
You can see the 42 machine right now coasting on the access road. So problems here for Bob Bryant. That car may not make it. It is not going to make it. He's trying to kind of shake it back and forth as he wants to get. Now he's got it refired. That car lost power as it was down on the access road, and now he's going to get it back up to Song. But, I mean, that's going to cost him his running spot.
Was that Marcus Ambrose at Sonoma that we just saw? I think that's what is bringing memories back for me. He just came off of pit road. I don't see any reason that car should have had any fuel issues. He drove down onto pit road, had his pit stop, and got off fine. I have to think here, Evan, that he's just trying to conserve the gas as best he can, and maybe he's just a little bit too late with getting that engine refired. He's going to lose all that track position as he moves all the way back to the end of the field here, but he's thinking about saving. We're going to take a look at what happened to the 42, but I think he just shut the motor off trying to save gas.
Well, we'll listen on with him. This is coming out of turn number 1 after the pit stops. Again, he completed his service. Bob Bryant had been working in a pretty good spot. Watch the RPMs on that as well. The digital dash on his virtual Chevy Camaro. Under power, coming off of the pit lane. He was a top 20 car, and they're going to drop all the way down right there. They just cut right down. That car completely losing power. He'll drop down to the apron. And again, he did not come back down to the pit lane, so obviously not something scheduled. But look at all the cars passing him up on the apron.
After that green flag pit stop strategy, getting yourself some track position and getting yourself a decent pit stop there, Bob Ryan's going to have to come back, and he's dead again down in turn number 4, so he's going to have to bring it down onto pit road. Something amiss with that Credit One Chevrolet Camaro as Bob Bryant brings it down into pit road. He hasn't had the best of season so far, Evan, and this is going to be another knock here as it looks like it's under power now as he goes down to his box.
I can't say I could recall, as the lights going on top of the pace car, Andy, a time where someone is struggling to maintain power in their car.
I have no idea what's going on. He shouldn't. We've seen people, like Tim said, go this far on fuel, and I'm not sure. I've never seen a tech issue like this, Evan, where people are having issues to keep the engine running. Normally you'll see either wheel disconnect or something along that nature. This is the first time for me. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, he does get it into the box. He gets some fresh tires and fuel in it. He'll be at the very back, but he gives up a ton of track position. We're going to go on board for this restart with Brad Davies. Take a look at what it looks like for the inside of row number 3 in his 88 Chevy. Green flag back in the air, 75 laps down. They single file it out up at the front of the field. Bobby Zelensky stays in front in the VRS entry. It is then Shearburn 2, Lowe in third, but that 21 car has been on the charge. He's been making a boost for the get-go, is getting a lot of those positions gained through that first green flag run. A different story between he and John Gorlinski, who sits in fourth. Gorlinski benefited from the timing of that first caution flag, having not pitted at that point. He's brought his 97 car from 29th at the start to right now P4.
Had a good start to this season at Daytona and really rode that momentum, and he's won here before at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, so keep an eye on John Gorlinski. I don't think we've heard the last of that William Byron Esports car yet this evening, and then Jeremy Allen in the 47 car right in behind him, making a return to this series in 2020 and doing fairly well so far here with a top 5 run going for that JTG Doherty Racing entry. And we saw it on a couple of those speed shots, Evan, on the restart where the top 10 or so, it seems like they're a little bit calm. The mid-pack right now trying to pick up as many positions as they can and put themselves a little bit closer towards the front of the field. But you look at that pack right there, Brad Davies, add the 88 to that mix. There's some names that have been involved in sim racing for decades and putting on a show right now in and around the top 5.
And Davies, one of the more senior members, not only just into, participation in this series, but at age as well. Quite the age range in this series. A lot of drivers, high school or college students, and really good to see that they can get this in on the weeknights, balancing it between their studies and as well, a lot of them real-life racing activities. It's about 50% of the field, I'd say, that actually does go real-life racing in some capacity or another. You're taking a look now once more at Garrett Lowe. He's dropped the back a bit from Shearburn. I thought he would be the one to challenge, but don't look now. That 36 car has run up, and he wants to challenge for the very top position. This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Coca-Cola Cherry Vanilla, introducing a new combination of your favorite flavors all in one Coke. Try it today at your local stores.
Yeah, you're definitely right, Evan, but what that 36 has been able to put together since that strategy call, he looks mighty quick. Not only did he maybe have the right strategy, but he's got himself track position, and he is keeping it. Now what's going to be interesting to watch as well, what happens with the drivers that did pit versus those that didn't. The likes of Luza we saw come down pit road, saw Logan Clampett as well, Keegan Leahy, I think, in that mix as well, as he's currently buried back in 10th. Are those drivers going to have an advantage once we get, deeper into this run, or are they going to be the tires going to plateau off nicely for these drivers that opted to stay out?
We're going to get a second look as well as that contact from a little bit earlier in this one at a Coca-Cola Replay. Watch this. Off of the restart, you can say fanning a little bit 235, but there it is with the 10 pushing up. He got up into the 5, back down into Vincent, and he mowed the grass down the back straightaway, but was able to get it back up. Not only just hang on to that race car, Tim, but he got it back up and into traffic, and somehow no incident.
Yeah, no harm, no foul, minus a couple of positions lost with the 27 of Corey Vincent, but still maintains that car going straight, and we keep this race going green, as you see near the front of the field, the 36 of Chris Shearburn. Continuing to run in position number 2, Garrett Lowe, right in behind him, Brad Davies, Jeremy Allen, your top 5, and then you get outside the top 10, then you start to see that 2 wide racing. Those guys trying to pick up positions. You ride on board with the Stewart-Haas Esports Mobile 1 car of Dylan Duvall as he looks up at Keegan Leahy. 2 drivers from the city of Halifax, Nova Scotia, doing a little battle here down the front straightaway.
They represent half of our international class for this 2020 campaign. The 2 drivers from north of the border, also Christian Challener out of the United Kingdom, and Jarltien from Norway make up the 4 internationals, the 36 other cars all residing out of the USA. And there's a in-sim rig shot with Dylan Duvall currently running P10, a winner in this championship from a couple of years back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway from 2016. Looking to return to victory lane. He's got a sporty car, but there is a lot going on in front of him. As you can see, Keegan Leahy making a move to the bottom of John Gorlinski.
Yeah, a lot going on in front of him, and he was a little bit tight coming off of turn 4. Think he may have just touched that outside wall as Keegan's going to try and get the drive underneath the 97. He's got it now. Watch out for Dylan Duvall. He's got the run, and it's going to be Gorlinski blocking down to the bottom. Can't quite find any space there. Can Dylan Duvall, but man, oh man, this is a fun fight, and Blake Reynolds and Eric Smith fighting behind. We're nearly 2x2.
And you can see them throwing the blocks down the back straightaway. This time, though, the 41 gets inside of positioning. Duvall trying to make the move on John Gorlinski. He's got it. Move him now up into 9th position. The next car to arrive on the scene was that Coke Cherry Vanilla entry of Blake Reynolds. Unable, though, to kind of pony up with the move by the 41 and tag team the 97 to Gorlinski. He stays in line for the moment. He'll try to reset, but I mean, even further behind, you got Jimmy Bullish, you've got Eric Smith, Ray Alfala, all these drivers in the mix here. This battle is going on outside of the top 10.
Yeah, the odd man out in this battle is the driver of the Big Green Egg, number 9. Eric Smith has lost a couple of positions, going to try to stop the bleeding ahead of the 5 of Matt Busa, but he's lost one to Ray Alfala. He's lost one to Blake Reynolds and lost one to Jimmy Mullis. So falling back a little bit on this early part of the run. A couple of drivers moving back up. You see the 46 flashing the nose to the inside of Jimmy Mullis, trying to move that Richmond Raceway Esports car up one more position. He will, and there's Dylan Duvall, another shot of those drivers from Halifax going at it, trying to close in on Keegan Leahy. Leahy, your winner of the season opener, as we're going 3 wide in the middle of the pack.
They are going to go 3 wide. Squished in the middle there is the number 14 car of Brandon Hayes-Cattell. Outside is the 24 of Nichols. The bottom was Novak, and just as we pick it up, you can see him talking on the radio, maybe expressing some frustration. He was the big loser in all of that as he dropped the back through the middle. You can see the 24 car in front of him now as he tries to regain. Certainly the opposite of when we went on board with Conti earlier. He is talking a lot. You know, for drivers, or I guess I should say for people, Randy, who don't tune into this and aren't as familiar with this iRacing thing, not only are all of these drivers competing at home and they're putting in thousands of hours of practice weekly on their own, but there are full-on teams helping them right now. They've all likely got a spotter, another person at home watching the sim being a part, and he's calling 3 wide right now because he is now on the very outside of it.
He's got the nicest made bet in sim racing, and he might be able to make one of the nicest moves of the day as well. To the outside, he's going to get around, I believe, the 66, and now it's going to be Michael Gariglia he's going to be sizing up here. So we've seen many of these drivers on these onboard Shot 7 look calm, look cool, look collected. Brandon Cattell, not one of those. He looks stressed right now behind the wheel of that number 14, and he's trying to make stuff happen.
Apparently was able to make up for the first loss into 3 wide, but that was awfully sketchy. The 66 car almost pushed up, but it got into him in that battle for position. Instead, he'll be fine. They're going at it this hard for 23rd on the racetrack. But yeah, just to finish off that point, Tim, they got spotters, crew chiefs, race strategists, all that. You could have at least a half a dozen or a dozen people in a radio channel with these drivers talking things through. But at the end of the day, only the guy behind the wheel could make the moves, and that's Cattell right now trying to make the top work.
Much as you would see in your NASCAR Cup Series teams or at any short track or what have you, Michael Conti in the 8 car, will see him work again as he's to the inside of Brandon Cattell. Great little battle. But as you mentioned, Michael Conti's mired back here are just inside the top 25 now. Nick Ottinger just behind him in position number 29. And Chris Overland right ahead as you see Michael Conti try to close in, try to narrow that focus in on the next car in line. That would be the spin number 16 of Chris Overland. But strategy not working out for him at this point. We've said before, in that dirty air, it's a little bit more difficult to pass, so Michael Conti has his work cut out for him, and you can see a little scratch in the head. What do I have to do to get up to the front?
No bet in sight, but he does have the product placement nailed down as he had those Coke products right in the view of the camera in the back end. That's how you know Michael Conti, a series veteran, as well a past series champion in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. He took home the crown back in 2014. And this is the look now back up towards the front of the field. Bobby Zalenski is still your race leader, and Garrett Lowe has since taken over second. When we last checked in, it was Chris Shearburn who was on the attack, but he is struggling a little bit now. Lowe went to second, Luza went to third, and he's about to lose P4 now to the 99 of Logan Clampett.
The 99 lurking as well as the 88, so a couple sequential car numbers there as they work in towards turn one. Logan up the inside of the 36, trying to make that move stick. Down on the bottom, tires starting to get old. We're starting to see some drivers move up the racetrack a little bit, but Logan, good speed on that bottom groove. 36 should have good momentum as well, coming down the banking there from that upper end of the racing line. And 3 and 4, Logan Clampett should just be able to get clear here if he's brave, but the 88 looked the bravest of them all, as Davies is now side by side of the 36 as Logan completes the pass.
He is able to make the move. Davies, no momentum on the inside off of the corner, so he'll have to wait and try again. Keegan Leahy back here as well for to make the move at the outside. I mentioned right off of the top that drivers that have been talking all week about the track position, and when Keegan Leahy was in front of him, he looked awfully good. I mean, he had a very rock-solid, about a 1.5 seconds advantage for the race lead early until he lost the race lead in the first second of green flag pit stop. Since then, that is not a slow race car. He's trying to make the move for P6 right now, and he'll squeeze on the outside to do it, but it has not been that dominant car that it was when it was in the clean air.
Yeah, it's still got some work to do, but even Bobby Zalenski hasn't been able to pull away from the rest of this field. Just had that change for second with Ryan Luza going to second on Garrett Lowe. So now we'll see if Ryan Luza has anything for Bobby Zalenski in front of this field. The 36 of Shearburn, the 32 of Leahy continue to battle. That would be the battle for the final top 5 position, sitting in position at number 5. But the 83, there is your leader, Bobby Zalenski. Second place is Ryan Luza. Ryan Luza appears to be closing in a little bit, Evan. Just made that move on the 21 of Garrett Lowe. Now we'll see what he has, not only to take the lead and see what he has for the remaining 30 laps and change, and see if he can bring this thing home. There's still a long way to go here.
It was 1/10 second better than the car that you're looking off of the back of right now. This shot off of the bumper of Bobby Zalenski. Let's see if Luza can continue to close the gap in. Luza putting down a 32.7 last lap compared to a 32.8 second lap time for Zalenski. And as he follows in the wake, it is going to take some of the downforce off of the front of the car, but with this package, he's able to draft up on him. Now has that gap down to just a single 1/10 second as he has consistently been faster. Can the 53 car make something happen? The difference right now is 2 car lengths. Next time by, 35 laps to go.
It was just under a 1/10 last trip around the racetrack between your top 2 in terms of lap speed. So Luza is definitely lurking there and getting closer. Ryan, very, very experienced. He's not going to rush this, as I think Bobby maybe this time through has been able to equalize the pace a little bit. We'll see if they come across and my timing updates. An 8.41 for Bobby that trip around the racetrack, and an 8.45 for Ryan. So the pace may be starting to equalize, like you said, Evan, when the 53 gets there in the dirty air.
Of course, all of this action taking place on the iRacing service. And, we've been talking all night that if you're new or a returning viewer, we're happy to have you. iRacing is the leading sim racing game for your PC. Developed as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates online races on virtual tracks all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for sim racing. Go to iRacing.com today for more information on how you can get involved and get your sim racing career started. Luza is there now on the bumper to Zalenski. More battles throughout the package. You can see the 77 of Crowder's under attack from Nichols. There's tons of 2 wide back here. You can see the race leaders are strung out a little bit, but I think a fight for P1 is on our hands. Right-hand side of the screen. Top 2 are pulling away. Luza plastered on the deck lid.
Look at some of the names in this battle that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. You're riding with Ray Alfala. Ashton Crowder, the winner from Fontana, is in this. We saw Justin Bolton run so strong earlier in this race. He's up on the outside line, 2 cars up to 24. Just makes the move of Jake Nichols. That battle for the lead continues to intensify, but some of these drivers that were running near the front a little bit earlier really have to be considering they got to get going. I know you have to conserve your run and manage your tires to get to the end if this thing goes green, but Reynolds Fowler right now is running in 17th position on this racetrack. He's got 6 top 5s here. He knows how to get up there. Question is, can he get back up here before the checkered flag flies?
And it is a mess back there in the pack. That's where I saw some of the 2 wide. I mean, there's cars going way up to the fence, way down to the inside, trying anything they can to go to the end, as we expect, because of the way that the 2 caution flags have fallen so far this evening. These drivers trying to stretch it to go the distance. The only reason we had that first yellow to begin with is because drivers pushed it some 66 laps, and we saw a blown tire off the 6 car of Nathan Lyon. So you do have to be aggressive, yes, but do not overdrive these cars. You're going to be going a full run to the end. You do have to balance that aggressiveness with protecting your equipment. This right here is the fight for third. It's Clampett. He'll go to the inside of Garrett Lowe. This fight's for third.
Fight for the lead is close as well as Ryan loses, poking the nose up the inside of the 83 as they come off of turn 4, but can't quite get there. Is Ryan Luza. Bobby Zielinski able to just hold on? Let's try 1 and 2 this time to go up to the point. A little bit of a slide from Bobby on the turn in. That's going to make him nose to nose. Push it up the racetrack. Goes the 83 as Ryan Luza starts to nose ahead. They're still even as they work down the back.
I mean, he parked it on his left rear quarter panel on the front straightaway, and they just about doored each other off of turn number 2. This is the fight for the race lead. Will it be a pass for the race win? Luza on the inside. Yes, sir. Lap 105. New race leader. It is Ryan Luza back to the lead in the Williams Esports Ford Mustang.
The thing I'm going to take from that, though, about a lap or so, Bobby Zielinski, Ryan Luza really not cutting each other any slack, and then Bobby Zielinski going down into corner number 3 gives Ryan Luza just enough room to make that pass work, and Ryan Luza goes to the lead. So about a lap or so, Evan, these guys not giving a whole lot, and then a little bit of give from that 83 of Bobby Zielinski. Maybe he's going to let Ryan Luza go out and lead some laps and maybe conserve something here, thinking this race is going to go 29 more laps to the finish. Maybe conserve a little bit of tires. Conserve that run management right now. But currently sitting in position number 2 now is Bobby Zielinski, about 3/10 back. Got a little ways to go before Logan Clampett finds him for second.
He does have that buffer that those top 2 are able to work over everybody else. Clampett about 1.2 seconds off of what is the race lead right now. Then you have Garrett Lowe, Keegan Leahy in 3rd, 4th, and 5th position in line. Phil Diaz, though, is the number 75 car. He's back in 35th spot in traffic. But look at him go to the outside of all of these cars. Fresh rubber, and he is flying up top. Reynolds just about put a block on him. That was guessed, actually, in the beneath Chevy for Team Dillon Esports. And that 75 car doing work up on the outside line.
If I didn't know any better, Evan, I'd say Phil was rolling around the top there with the AI turned way down. He's just making moves everywhere. After coming off the pit road, I believe you see him down the back straightaway, tons of the momentum for the 75. It feels like driving down the freeway on your drive home back from work, but man, the 75 is in a groove, and he's just passing cars left and right at the moment. None of these for position, of course, because he's a lap down after coming down pit road, but it is fun to watch.
Yeah, he decided to pit 7 laps ago. He pitted at lap number 100, got 4 tires, and is making it look easy off of the outside line to pass it out. Teammate in the 24 of Nichols. But the big thing there, as Randy mentioned him, not for position. He is a lap down. 33 cars right now scored on the lead lap. He is running in 34th spot. Only Steve Sheehan has gone behind the wall with a DNF. Of course, we saw that incident on a pit road entry. Everybody else still in it, including a damaged Casey Kerwin, who he collected. Kerwin is 7 laps down, 39th. Not a good debut run for a different-looking Jordan Toyota, as he's got the UNC colors on that Denny Hamlin race at entry. Not a night for him to remember by any means. This time by, we'll put 110 behind us, continuing to inch closer for the end of this race. But Luza inching away from Zielinski, his lead up front to half second.
And Phil Diaz looked pretty calm when we looked at that onboard of him slicing through the field. As you see the 41 of Dylan Duvall on your screen, that is the 10th place position driver. And we'll take a look at him on board as he runs around inside the top 10. And right behind him, he's got the 47 of Jeremy Allen, the defending series champion Zach Novak. And A little bit of pressure from behind, but not a whole lot. He's got about a second or so to catch the next driver up, which would be Matt Busa. So a little bit of time to go, but still laps to work. 24 laps left in this race from Homestead. And he looks zoned in. He looks relaxed as he's got one in front of him coming down to the pit road, but it looks like.
And you can see him actually going back and forth with the wheel, kind of sawing away at it. Look at this now, 3 wide as we come off of turn 4, middle of it all. I think that's the 16 of Chris Overland inside, the 3 of Reynolds. Outside, the 97 of Gorlinski. We got more cars. How about 4 wide? Oh, they're going to spin. 2 cars sideways. Somehow, though, we saved it.
Look at all this excitement with pit stops happening. Maybe some drivers feeling they can't stretch it on the tires here, Evan. I don't think this is going to be a fuel concern with drivers come down pit road after that tight 4-wide moment. You can see one driver on the left there on pit road. I believe that's the 88 of Brad Davies you're taking a look at. But I think a lot of people got spooked. We saw Eric Smith, of course, blow a tire. Saw a couple tires let go, I think, at the end of that last run. And I think people are thinking, you know, even though we can stretch the fuel that long, we don't want to risk one of these 4 tires blowing up and not getting us there.
Yeah, I still have no idea how it didn't wreck them all. Blake Reynolds, Kane Cook, they both got sideways at the same time. I thought that was it, but they save it. We stay green. We'll get a second look now at the Coca-Cola replay at that bit of 4 wadding. This was off of 2. The 3 cars there are fighting for position, and then it got Cook at the bottom, fresh tires. Watch right there. 2 cars, they just snapped. Same spot on the bottom. I thought all bets were off, and an incredible recovery by both of them, not only to save those race cars, but also really to not lose any track position.
Yeah, Schoenberg did a nice job rolling out of the throttle as well and not getting into the back of that car of Kane Cook in front of him. But you look at this strategy now, and Randy kind of mentioned it. You got guys on new tires coming towards the front and trying to unlap themselves, get as much as they can out of those brand new tires. You got some drivers that, as you see Phil Diaz on the outside of the 83 of Bobby Zelensky, there are those new tires on the outside. This is where it creates this 2 and 3 and what we just saw, 4 wide moves. It might end up breeding a caution flag before this thing is all said and done. I kind of don't want to say it, Evan, because we have such a green flag run going here, but maybe that's in the back of the mind of some of these drivers too. Do I come down pit road and put myself behind the 8 ball, or do I stay out with what I have up in front? Your top 3, your top 5 are committed to this strategy right now with 19 laps to go. They're out in front and on the racetrack.
I think it's happened to all of us at least once that you mentioned the possibility of a caution and then it comes out, so I'll plead the 5th on that one. Looking at the 8 car of Michael Conti. He runs in 14th position. Again, the Jeter Motorsports Chevrolet started 7th, but runs P14 right now. You're looking up to the 24 of Jake Nichols on the right-hand side with his InSim on board, and that is a cluster of race cars. Slow cars up top, the cars with fresh tires, a lap down on the bottom, making moves. As this race continues to tick down, we've seen so many cars hit the eject button, come down to the pit lane for tires. Your race leaders, though, still yet to do so. Now it is Logan Clampett, by the way, in P2, has made the pass on Bobby Zelensky. He is 1.6 seconds behind race leader Ryan Luza.
Yeah, and Logan has run away in a big way from Bobby Zelensky, nearly 0.7 of a second clear of the 83, allowing some faster traffic to come through. So for both Luza and Clampett, keep an eye out for that. Who is that? It's the 88 of Davies, as well as the 15 of Guerrilla out there on the new tires, currently working their way through the traffic, and they single file out to get around at Logan Clampett.
Trying to make these moves and see where it all shakes out in battles throughout the pack. Looking at Garrett Lowe fighting with Jarl Tien, the 66, not for the spot, but Bobby Zelensky in front is. Seems like the cars with the fresher tires is able to make the bottom work, so these race leaders just stay up about that lane or lane and a half. Here's Lowe, though, looking to the inside. He's got a little bit of an advantage off a turn 4, but he can't translate that into a run. He'll wait. Zelensky protects the bottom. The 21 looks to his outside.
Yeah, the 21 of Garrett Lowe trying to make something happen here. Split screen, your bottom of your screen is your battle for position number 3 is Garrett Lowe to the upside of the 83 of Bobby Zelensky trying to make it work. On the other side, the 90 is Zach Novak. You got the 8 of Michael Conti duking it out for position late in this one. Will come down this time and have 15 laps to go from Homestead. Garrett Lowe makes that pass, moves up to position number 3, but got a little ways to catch Logan Clampett and Ryan Luza. Luza still out in front by almost 2 seconds.
He is actually gaining. Thought that maybe when Clampett got into the number 2 spot, got some of the clean air, that maybe he would reel in Luza, but he has been dropping a little bit. Luza about a half a tenth of a second faster than a P2 Logan Clampett is every single time around. The next milestone this time through will be 14 laps to go from Homestead. We've talked about all the different race winners that we've seen through the years here at this racetrack. It's been on the calendar since the second season back in 2011. Ryan Luza is one of those drivers that has a win here. Took the checkered flag in 2017 here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Same season, he clinched the championship.
Yeah, and he ran pretty good here as well in 2018. So Ryan Luza has performed well here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway, and he's done amazing thus far today. He was one of the ones, remember, came down pit road at the last caution cycle, and we had a handful of the cars opt to stay out. Those who came down pit road are faring really well right now. I believe they currently run 1, 2, 3, 4. Bobby Zelensky, the first of those that didn't come down pit road. Chris Shearburn, another one of those who has his hands full to 79 and working their way through traffic on new tires.
And it is going to be a tough road to hoe for them to get on through. Again, the concern is if there were to be an incident halfway through this cycle, you got drivers stuck a lap down, but most of them have been able to get back to at least the lead lap, but of course just find themselves way out of the running positions as drivers are still darting inside and out. I caught Zach Novak there making a move to the inside out of the corner of my eye. He, Dylan Duvall, Ashton Crowder, those three fighting for 10th, 11th, and 12th. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, they are some 9 seconds behind your race leader. Kind of waiting to see, well, there are still tons of positions up for grabs throughout the field. There's this battle with the 77 of Crowder down to the bottom of the 90. If there is one more ball to drop in that fight for the overall race win.
And look at that car in behind, the 8 of Michael Conti. He laced up his boots and went to work on this run. He was outside the top 30 earlier in this run, and now he's knocking on the door of what could very well be a top 10 run at the end of this. Just behind this battle between the 77 of Crowder, the 90 of Zach Novak, and the 41 of Dylan Duvall. But give a tip of the cap to the 8 of Michael Conti. He might not be up at the very front of this field, but he might get a top 10 out of this. And after where he started on this run, Evan, I think that deserves something out of this run as he looks to the inside of our reigning champion, Novak.
Yeah, definitely. Try to give everything he's got. There's a big bobble that time off of the turn for the 77 to Clampett, or for the 77 to Crowder, I should say. So it is Novak who will cross him back up to the bottom. The Sudoku car got tight, and he just avoided getting into him.
That he did, and that's going to open the door for the 8 of Michael Conti and should allow him up into position number 12. As I say that, though, Conti kind of had to check up coming off of turn 4, so not able to keep up the momentum. Going to send it, though, down in towards turn 1 and move Michael Conti from 13th up into 12th. Next in line is going to be the winner from Auto Club, but Conti has problems as Zelensky got driven around by the 46 of Jimmy Mullis.
That was for P6 up front. I saw some smoke as well in turn 3. I think it was somebody just sliding the tires, but certainly a lot going on late in this one. I think it was Leahy smoking the tires into P4, but Zelensky continues to drop back late in this run. Matt Busa now going to make the pass on him in the number 5, trying to follow up his teammate. This could be a very good outing for the Williams Esports cars, both right now running inside of the top 10. It is still Luza out in front. His advantage, I think the biggest we've seen for the race lead so far tonight at 2.1 seconds.
And there's Matt Booth that made that move on Bobby Zelensky. Zelensky is falling late in this one. You just saw that battle on your screen for a top 10 run. Ashton Crowder, Dylan Duvall. Crowder took that position. So it's hard to watch here, Evan, in these last 10 laps where you really want to position yourself. But Bobby Zelensky is going the wrong way. He's going backwards. He's got about 2 seconds or so before Jeremy Allen catches him. And then they got that pack behind of Ashton Crowder, Dylan Duvall. I think they're going to have to really put their head down and get to work to get to Bobby Zelensky. But Bobby going the wrong way. He can see all those cars in front of him, but they are pulling away as Matt Busa was the latest one to do so.
I'm going to break up the pattern here, Evan. I'm going to break up the pattern here. Bobby Zelensky has fuel problems. You listen to that car. We've been on board for a couple laps. The 83 is lifting and coasting into the corners. This might be a bad sign for those drivers who did not come down pit road at the last caution. He's given up a huge amount of time and lifting way out of the throttle on each end of the racetrack.
We talked about the time into the 2 yellows that we've seen tonight meant that these drivers had to stretch. Everybody came in at that first caution. Not everybody did so the second time through, obviously opting to save fuel under the yellow itself. Cars throughout the pack have since pitted for tires and fuel, but the race leaders have defended that track position, and Zelensky obviously concerned that that race car needs to get limped home.
Yeah, he's going to try to dig deep here and see what he can salvage for at least a top 10 run, or this pack is going to be right up on him. Michael Conti to the inside, the 90 of Zach Novak to the outside, and Jake Nichols having a great run, trying to get a top 10 position before this thing is all said and done. Michael Conti continues to work the inside. That tucks back into line, and now the 90 goes to work on the 41 of Dylan Duvall. Zach Novak trying to roll the top from 3 and 4.
He's going to get everything he can as this fight's going to come down to the wire. The 90 Novak still up top, Duvall on the bottom. Side-by-side drag race, 5 laps to go at Homestead-Miami. Luza still the race leader. He leads by now 3 seconds over Logan Clampett, who's in the number 2 spot. Keegan Leahy in 3rd, along with Garrett Lowe fighting him for that spot, and Chris Sherburne P5.
They were just side by side. They were working through 3 and 4. We're Keegan Leahy and Garrett Lowe. So all sorts of late race implications here with drivers maybe struggling on tires, drivers maybe struggling on fuel, trying to keep track of all sorts of fights that are happening. It looks like Diaz managed to get around a couple of those cars that he was fighting with. So his recovery drive after a pit lane infraction has gone really, really well as we take a look at Garrett Lowe, who is still stalking the 32 of Leahy.
Will this be the final pass inside of the top 5 of the top 10 tonight? Next time by, Luza right there. Just took 4 laps to go, but you're on board with the 21 car. He's about 6 car lengths back for 3rd and 4th position. Again, Leahy started on pole. Lowe started in 13th, but he made that ride speed forward, get up through the field very early on. Can he get one more, break into a podium spot?
And they're chasing down Logan Clampett, who's about a second ahead of Keegan Leahy in that number 32 car, but I think he's going to run out of laps and run out of time here unless we get a late race caution the next lap and a half or so. Ryan Luza has this thing under wraps as long as he can keep the thing straight and keep it under power. Keegan Leahy, though, having a great run in position number 3. There is your leader, Ryan Luza, trying to lock up another win here at Homestead. He's done it before, looking to take his 2nd career victory here at Homestead.
To be just now a second driver to find victory lane here at Homestead-Miami for a second time. His advantage is way out in front, down to nearly 4 seconds. There is a little bit of traffic in front, but it should not be a concern for him, as this time at turn number 4, Ryan Luza going to look for the white flag presented by iRacing.
Down the front straightaway with this 3.7 second gap. Ryan Luza looking calm, cool, and collected. A lot of fights still starting to stretch out. Sub 21 maybe struggling with gas as Sherburne is getting big in the rear view for P4, but Luza has nothing in the rear view as he works down the back straightaway for the final time.
Came out early last season, got a handful of checkered flags, but did not return in the second half of the season. This time, he's going to be on the money in Homestead-Miami. Final time at turn 4, and for the 13th time in his career, Luza, a winner in the Coca-Cola iRacing Series. He gets it done tonight at Homestead.
Logan Clampett's going to come home with 2nd. Keegan Leahy was driving him down at the end. Finished about 4 or 5 car lengths in behind him in position number 3. Garrett Lowe, Chris Sherburne, your top 5, and it was close between Lowe and Sherburne for that 4th place position. Great run to the finish for these eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers, and Ryan Luza going back to victory lane here at Homestead. 4 races here, Evan. He hasn't finished outside the top 5 in any race here at Homestead. This is definitely Ryan Luza's stomping grounds when it comes to some good finishes. Not a finale this year, but definitely a victory.
He had 3 of the first 5 race wins last season. Vegas, Texas, Richmond, but did not return in that second half of the year. Gets the season kicked off once more. In every season that Ryan Luza has competed in this series, he has won 1 of the first 3 races. That is 2017, 18, 19, and now 2020. Luza victorious today at the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. This winning moment is presented by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR.
Good to see this 53 back to victory lane as well. And like you said, started out strong last year, but just sort of the midseason, he just sort of had a bad luck, seemed to lose that momentum. But Ryan Luza, always a championship contender, was for a bulk of the season last year, and I think he's going to be getting back to form here in 2020, and sizing it up with a win here in the third round of the championship is a great way to get that kick started.
Let's take a look at tonight's race results from Homestead, Florida. Round 3 on the season in the books, and it is that Williams Esports Ford of Ryan Luza who gets the win. He was able to stretch that margin of victory out to 4 seconds atop Logan Clampett, who comes home P2, and Keegan Leahy finishing in third. We'll try to get a word with all of those drivers post-race in just a few moments. Along, you got Garrett Lowe, Chris Sherburne, top 5 finishes. Matt Busa, teammate to your winner Ryan Luza, slides in there in 7th. Of course, good runs for the likes of Bobby Zelensky, who fell back late, ends up P8, and then Ashton Crowder rounds out the top 10.
Crowder makes a late race move to get that top 10 position. Michael Conti comes home in position number 11, 1 spot short of a top 10 run here this evening. Jake Nichols in 12th, Zach Novak, Christian Chalner, and Dylan Duvall, your top 15. Duvall falling late in the top half of the field. Nick Ottinger, Justin Bolton, Brad Davies finishes in position number 18 for Junior Motorsports. Michael Guest and Bobby Bryant, your top 20.
We look outside of your top 20, Overland up there in 21st. Handful of drivers that had some issues here today. Reynolds, Bolin. Rael Fowler, a driver that started on the front row, finds his way all the way back in 24th. So good qualifying speed for that race car, but not very good, unfortunately, in the race trim. Eric Smith, one of the drivers we saw really struggle getting down towards pit road, is in 25th, and it's going to be the likes of John Gorlinski, Colin Keister, Malik Ray, Nathan Lyon, and Corey Vincent rounding out your top 30.
We look to the final page of results through all 40 cars, and these are the drivers that finished off of the lead lap and are pretty much out of it. There you go. You can see, as I mentioned earlier, 39 were on track. The top 35 through Cattell, Guerrilla, Diaz, Tian, and McCollum finished on the lead lap. Only Kane Cook, Brian Schoenberg, and Santiago Tires did not. And then, of course, those very bottom two, Kerwin with the damaged car limped home. Sheehan did not finish. He finishes 40th position and at the very back of this Homestead 134. So we thought that the strategy was coming to play. Some drivers were really trying to get to the distance, Tim, in the end, but Ryan Luza looked like he had that car locked in. His win tonight, as I mentioned, the 13th for him in his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series career. He maintains third all-time. He is now just 1 win shy, though, of Nick Ottinger for second on that all-time winners list.
You mentioned these teams. You mentioned these team strategists, these crew chiefs. They really came into play tonight. The pit strategy might not have come into play as a lot of these drivers might have thought at the very start of this race, but that caution around midway, a couple of drivers coming down pit road, and a couple of drivers having to clutch it near the end of this race. So those teams definitely came into play tonight, Evan.
And of course, as the 53 celebrates, we'll try to get an opportunity now to talk with your top finishers. It'll start down with P2, Logan Clampett. Tim, you're with him.
Yeah, Logan Clampett comes home in position number 2. And I know, Logan, you wanted a couple of more laps, but have to be happy with a second place finish. Talk about your run at Homestead. So we're going to get a hold of Logan Clampett here in a second, get some ears on him. But, Evan, what a race this was. And Logan just coming up a little bit short, but battling with Keegan Leahy there at the end. Very entertaining second-place run.
Yeah, we'll hope to get the audio fixed in just one moment. He was the one that was driving through the field late. So like I think we were all kind of thinking, but he made that move for P2, that may have translated into a fight for the race lead, but just wasn't able to match Ryan Luza. And listen, you talk about somebody who's had so much success here. No shame but getting P2. Logan Clampett getting a very good result here, continuing as we talked pre-race with that team's co-owner, Parker Kligerman. Very good start to Burton Kligerman Esports so far this year, and it'll continue. Not only did Williams get the race winner, as I mentioned, with Busa, but there's another team with 2 drivers top 10, and that was Burton Kligerman, Randy, with Logan Clampett and Ashton Crowder, P2 and 10.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Parker is going to be more than pleased with the way that this Tuesday evening went for them. I mean, that team's looking really good. Ashton looked amazing at the last round at Auto Club, and Logan looked really good there as well. He got caught up in that incident, which brought him way down the running order, but the early goings, like I said at the start of the broadcast, I think he was the car to beat there at Auto Club, and both of them look strong today. There was no point really where Ashton was at the head of the field, but Logan was out front for a big chunk of this race, and man, he looked fast.
He certainly did. Of course, as we mentioned, lose to Clampett Leahy 1, 2, and 3 tonight from Homestead. And the good news is, as we continue to work forward, is that you're not going to have to wait 3 more weeks to get to more eNASCAR action, Tim Terry, because we're going to be back in 2 weeks' time, Bristol Motor Speedway, for the longest race of the season in laps, 250 laps, due up 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, March the 31st.
Listen, Evan, I'm a short track guy. Absolutely love Bristol Motor Speedway. I know we're going to Richmond as well, next up on the schedule there as well, but Bristol always provides some great racing. We saw an excellent race last year, producing a new winner as well. So we'll see what happens in Bristol in a couple weeks' time. I'm very excited for it, coming from a short track background. Put these Cup cars on there, you're going to see a show.
And if you don't want to have to wait for 2 weeks, we mentioned on this broadcast that iRacing is bringing the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Invitational Series back. You can watch that this Sunday, March 22nd at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Broadcast details will be announced soon. See the likes of Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Clint Boyer, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and other drivers from the top 3 of NASCAR's National Touring Series in that broadcast this Sunday. Let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race here tonight from Homestead-Miami. And of course, no doubt, it is that pass for the race with Randy. Lose it to the inside onto Bobby Zalenski.
Yeah, I don't think you could pick anything else, could you? He got around the 83 here. You see him sizing him up off of turn 4, able to get the run, and he seals it down in towards turn 1. Ryan was so good today in being able to open up that 4-second margin. Started right here that allowed him to win.
Was real aggressive, parked it on that left rear quarter panel, and even as this battle continued, Tim, through 1 and 2, right here, they just about doored each other. They were not playing nice. I think Lewis know full and well that he intended this to be the pass for the race win, so he was not given an inch.
Except about right here, when they come to the middle of the corner off, Bobby gives him a little bit of room right here, and Ryan Luza goes by. But for a lap, neither of them wanted to give an inch, and rightfully so, because that, at the end of the day, was the Coca-Cola move of the race and the move for the win. Congratulations to Ryan Luza, again, starting off another season strong in this series.
Race win. Now we see 3 different race winners in the 3 races to start the season. But with that being said, round number 3 now falls into our rear view mirror. That's it for us here tonight for the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. On behalf of our entire team at iRacing and NASCAR, for the broadcast team tonight, for Tim Terry, Randy Chenneth, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Ryan Luza on a career win number 13. We're back in 2 weeks' time. We hope to see you Tuesday, March 31st from Bristol. That race and every race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Good night.